Born in the middle of a violent storm, Nikola Tesla entered the world with thunder, lightning, and fear all around him. A village woman looked at the sky and whispered, "He is a child of darkness." But his mother said, "No, he will be a child of light." This is the true story of a boy who saw the world differently from the very beginning. Listen to Natural English as we follow the extraordinary life of Nikola Tesla. Part 1. The Midnight Storm in Smiljan.
My name is Nikola Tesla. My story began a long time ago in a place called Smiljan. It was a small, quiet village nestled in the rugged mountains of the Austrian Empire. Life there was simple. The air was filled with the scent of pine trees and the sound of church bells. But the night I was born, July 10, 1856, the world was anything but quiet. A violent summer storm was screaming across the sky. Lightning was dancing between the black clouds, lighting up the valley every few seconds like 1,000 suns. The thunder was so loud that the stone walls of our house trembled. The midwife, an old woman from the village, was terrified. She looked at the flashing sky and then at me, a tiny crying baby. She whispered to my mother, "This child will be a child of darkness. He is a child of the storm." But my mother, Juka, was a woman of incredible strength and spirit. She held me close to her heart, looked at the lightning through the window, and replied with a smile, "No, he will not be a child of darkness. He will be a child of light." I don't remember that night, of course, but I have always felt that the lightning stayed in my blood. It was my first connection to the invisible power that moves the stars and the oceans. Part 2. The Gift of a Silent Genius. People often ask me where my genius came from. They think I learned everything from expensive books or famous professors in Vienna. But the truth is much simpler. My greatest teacher was my mother, Juka. She could not read or write a single word of a book. In our village, women didn't go to school. But my mother was a brilliant inventor in her soul. With her own hands, she created tools to make our hard farm life easier. She invented mechanical egg beaters, complex looms for weaving, and even cooking utensils that didn't exist before. Her memory was like a vast, endless library. She could recite thousands of lines of ancient epic poetry without missing a single syllable. She taught me that the mind is a tool that must be sharpened every single day. From her, I inherited a strange and powerful gift, a photographic memory. I didn't just think in words or abstract ideas. I thought in vivid, three-dimensional pictures. When she spoke of a bird, I didn't think of the word bird. In my mind, I saw the bird's feathers, the specific curve of its beak, and the way the air moved around its wings. This was the beginning of my journey. A journey into a world made of light geometry, and perfect images. Part 3. Macak and the Secret of the Universe. One winter evening, when I was only 3 years old, I discovered my life's obsession. The mountains were covered in deep snow, and the air inside our house was freezing and very dry. I was playing on the wooden floor with my best friend, a large black cat named Macak. As the sun went down, the shadows in the room became long and dark. I began to stroke Macak's back with my hand. Suddenly, something magical happened. Macak's fur became a sheet of blue light. Bright sparks jumped between my small fingers and his dark fur. My hand was glowing in the darkness. I felt a tiny, sharp tickle on my skin. "Father, what is this magic?" I asked, my heart beating fast with wonder. My father, a serious priest, looked at the cat, and then at my glowing hand. "This is electricity, Nikola," he said softly. "It is the same power you see in the lightning during a storm. The cat is like a small piece of the sky." I was stunned. I looked at the cat, and then I looked at the sky through the window. I realized that the entire universe was full of a secret, invisible energy. I began to wonder, is the whole world just one giant cat? Can I learn to touch the lightning and control it for everyone? From that moment, I became obsessed with the invisible strings that pull the world together. Part 4. The Shadow of a Brother's Genius. But my childhood was not only full of light. There was also a deep, cold shadow. I had an older brother named Dane. He was brilliant, perhaps even more brilliant than I was. Everyone in the village spoke of him. They said he was a true genius, a boy who could do anything. My parents loved him deeply, and they saw their whole future in him. But when I was 5 years old, a terrible accident happened. Dane fell from a horse and died. In a single moment, our house became silent. My parents' hearts were broken into 1,000 pieces. I felt a heavy, invisible weight on my small shoulders. I felt that I was a disappointment because I was not Dane. I felt I had to be twice as good, twice as smart, to make up for the son they had lost. In my grief and loneliness, the images in my head became even stronger. I began to have visions of distant lands, strange machines, and people I had never met. Sometimes these images were so real that I couldn't tell what was the real world and what was my mind. This pain pushed me to study harder than anyone else. I worked until I was exhausted, trying to prove that I was worthy of being alive. Part 5. The Laboratory of the Mind. As I grew into a young man, my gift became a superpower. Most people, even great engineers, need a pen and paper to design a machine. They draw a line, they make a mistake, they erase it, and they try again. They build a physical model to see if it works. But I didn't need a workshop. I didn't need a single piece of wood or iron. In the silence of my mind, I could build a complete, complex machine. I could see every tiny screw, every copper wire, and every spinning wheel with perfect clarity. It was like a high-definition movie, playing in front of my eyes. I would start the machine in my head and let it run for weeks. I would go about my day, eat my dinner, and talk to my friends. But in the background of my mind, the machine was still spinning. After a month, I would check it. Is the metal getting hot? Is the belt starting to wear down? Is the vibration too strong? I could see exactly where the machine would break before I ever touched a single tool in reality. This was my secret. While others were struggling with physical materials, I was living in a world of pure light and perfect mathematics. I was a master of a hidden world that no one else could see. I could travel to New York or London or Paris in my mind without ever leaving my room. Part 6. Crossing the Valley of Death. In my teenage years, death came for me once again. A terrible disease called cholera arrived in our village. I became very sick. For 9 long months, I lay in bed, unable to move my body. I became so thin that I looked like a ghost. The doctors shook their head and whispered to my father, "There is no hope. He will not see another week." My father, Milutin, stayed by my side every night. He was a priest, and he wanted me to follow in his footsteps. He wanted me to lead a quiet life in the church. But I didn't want the church. I wanted the lightning. I wanted the future. One evening, when the room was dark and I felt my life fading away, I looked into my father's tired eyes. I whispered, "Father, perhaps I will get well if you let me study engineering." My father, who loved me more than his own traditions, made a solemn promise. "Nikola," he said with tears in his eyes, "if you survive, you will go to the best technical school in the world. I will send you to the heart of Europe." In that moment, a spark of life returned to my cold body. It was a miracle. The fever broke. I began to heal. I knew then that my life had a grand purpose. I was not meant to die in a small village in the mountains. I was meant for something much bigger. Part 7. A Vision of Niagara. I left my village to study. I became a man who never stopped learning. I learned many languages: English, French, German, and Italian. I read every book in the library. I studied physics and mathematics until my eyes were red from exhaustion. One day, in a classroom at my technical school, I saw a drawing of Niagara Falls. I had never seen anything like it. I stared at the image of the powerful water falling over the rocky edge in North America. I didn't see just water. I saw a mountain of energy going to waste. I could hear the roar of the water in my head. I could feel the vibration of the earth. I told my uncle, "One day I will go to America. I will put a giant wheel under those falls, and I will catch that power for all of humanity." My uncle laughed, and my classmates laughed. To them, I was just a strange, quiet boy from the mountains of the Austrian Empire. They thought I was a dreamer who didn't understand reality. But I didn't care about their laughter. The lightning in my mind was getting louder every day. It was calling me to the West, to the land of inventors and the land of the future. I looked at the stars over my home one last time and whispered a promise to the universe. I will light up the whole world. Today, I was just a dreamer from a small village. But the road ahead was longer and harder than I ever imagined. In the next episode, I will leave everything I know behind. I will cross the vast Atlantic Ocean on a ship. I will arrive in the chaotic streets of New York City with nothing but 4 cents in my pocket and a letter for a man named Thomas Edison. The war for the future is about to begin. Thank you for listening. See you in the next episode. The story continues. Good night.